So, yeah, so let's get started. I have a small presentation, a small PPT about like an introduction of the Tangut characters and some basics of Tangut grammar, and a little bit on phonology, not much. And then we have two hands out for today. Yeah, for the afternoon, one is a big one, and the other is a small one. So after I finish my little introduction, then we basically turn to the small one. Yeah? And as for the big one over here, then we can leave it as a homework. And then, yeah, we set a deadline before I was supposed to collect the papers, and then, oh, great. Since we're at a workshop, right? So, but I guess that should be all right. Just to begin with, many, especially students, because where I teach in Renmin University, in the master's course, yeah, master's and PhD, Tangut language is considered that means like, although it is an elective course, but it's in a way also mandatory. So eventually there are students who actually come to this class. And they're all scared in the beginning. Now, but the thing is, and what I always tell everyone, that in fact, if we compare the Tangut language, for example, with Tibetan, yeah, it is relatively easy. It's not too hard, and it is totally possible to master it, especially if one considers that it's not necessary to learn colloquial language, to learn to speak it. And even, I think, for historical purposes, for like a historian or in art studies or in whatever, in textual research anyway, even the pronunciation sometimes is not really that important, yeah, because there is, of course, a very bad habit which resembles us how Khitan kids used to learn Chinese, as Hunmai once reflected. Yeah, they were pronouncing Chinese in Khitan. Yeah, and it's basically the same here because, well, in most cases, I'm personally totally against that, but sometimes you can't really help it, and also the students, they, despite my, they still tend to read Tangut in Chinese. Yeah, this is of course very improper thing to do, but well. Then again, so what I'm trying to say here is that learning Tangut, I mean, when we began the course of study, yeah, that is either my professor Kichanov or Kepping or Nevsky for that matter, there was very little information about how to actually read it. I think the real breakthrough, yeah, apart from Nevsky's dictionary, was Kepping's book on Tangut morphology. That is 1985 it was published. For that period of time, or for that term, that was, I think, an extraordinary achievement. Another thing which is more or less of equal importance is the PhD dissertation by Ma Chunjiang, the only real student of Wang Jingru. This was defended in the Academy of Social Sciences, if I'm not mistaken, 1992 or something. Yeah, it was never published as a book. It is only available as a, even not a PDF. It's only like a photograph in handwriting. But nonetheless, that's also a very good thing. But with Kepping's book, it actually became possible to read texts with a greater degree of certainty. Yeah, we still have some guesswork in understanding, but after her publication, that's actually kind of became more reliable. Apart from that, of course, the study of Tangut language, Seikago no Kenkyu by Nishida and Tatsuo, is another fundamental achievement. And I personally value this book very highly, although it is already a very old one, it's from the 60s. And why is that? Because although Nishida sensei was himself a linguist, he was still very much interested in actual reading and understanding of the texts. That is why he was not only concerned with specifically linguistic matters, such as reconstructing phonology or finding out those peculiar morphological nuances, but he was actually concerned as of how we can read. Yeah? And from this perspective, I think that's fundamental. So far, another valuable tool, I mean, very valuable tool, is of course Li Fanwen's Tangut dictionary. Goes without saying that that's a gigantic achievement. It's monstrous work, and basically took Li's also a lifetime to complete. It's a real monument to scholarly efforts and rigor. Although this dictionary has its deficiencies, it still is indispensable for the Tangut studies, of course. But one major problem here is that Tangut language is made out of words. Whereas Li Fanwen's dictionary is based on characters, yeah, it's Z. So the problem is that, he doesn't have examples, or very few of them. In many cases, it's just a rewriting of the relevant paragraphs of one high dictionary of the Tangut. So, and I have to admit that sometimes there are mistakes in understanding of those things. Yeah. So, but nonetheless, so far it's the fundamental tool for our research and study. Another Tangut dictionary by.
What's the relationship with the online reference you sent us? In other words, between the printed book and what's available?
It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah. No, the online version is the website which I sent is. By Jerry Yu, yeah, that CCMC Gujin Wenzi Chang, yeah. That's a very good tool. And it is reliable to the same degree as other dictionaries are reliable, because he's inputting the stuff exactly as he sees that in books, yeah. He's, I think, rather brilliant. I've never seen him, you know, although we have friends on WeChat. I have never seen him, yeah. But Jerry seems to be quite a nice guy, I would say. Although he, with Guwenzi Jichang, it's also about Khitan and Georgian and the whatever, yeah, all languages are there. So that's of course that's a very valuable tool. And for a PDF copy, I think of the Li Fanwen's dictionary, it's just the PDF. That's it, exact copy of it. So these are basically the tools which we use. Now myself, I have some experience in teaching Tangut, and now we are preparing, I would say, a source book, yeah, for the Tangut studies. The texts more or less look like this one, which I have sent, although we do not have word, but this was prepared specifically for this meeting. Yeah, we do not have word by word word lists, and we do not provide, of course, normally the transcriptions. Yeah, but other than that, it's more or less like that. And probably we are also preparing a brief introduction to the Tangut grammar. Basically, the list of the, I think, 200.
Excuse me, Kirill. Who's we?
Well, myself, with the help of colleagues. No, it's because it's done in cooperation with the students who are unlucky to get into my class.
And in what language are you going to publish this?
Well, in English. In English, yeah.
Thank you.
But it's, I think, the Duban itself, the source book is ready. So we've done the selection. We have all more or less edited the texts, corrected mistakes. Now, when the rudimentary grammar, when it is ready, we will probably send it out for revisions and see what we get. Maybe I could publish it eventually. I have this in my contract with the Rennes University, so I have to do it. Otherwise, the contract gets terminated. So it's a really important thing to complete. All right, so that's more or less how this works. There are also several expositions of the Tangut language, for example, the one by Shinzimbo. Also, another one which recently got a prize for linguistics in Japan by Arakawa Shintaro, which is based on the study of Kongokyo of the Jinganjin. Yeah. So the situation, of course, now is much better than it was when we started. So I think learning Tangut now is not really difficult. And just like I said, I mean, Tangut itself is a fairly simple language, in fact. And hopefully you will find out this
Okay, may I
to the
interject there? It's a simple language, but a devilish script.
Well, it's devilish because we are not yet in full command of how to look at it, yeah? Because Tanguts obviously didn't look at it that way. The characters have their own logic, and we will talk about this in a couple of moments. So I have this very short presentation, I mean, with dealing with matters which I think are important, and then we'll consider. Now, for the standard way of looking onto Tangut characters was, of course, to see them as reproductions, sort of the Chinese ones, yeah? So if we look into the Shuwenjianzi, yeah, then of course that's everybody here knows, yeah, the Liu Ti, yeah, the 6 categories of characters, 只是, 象形, 形声, 专注, and 假借, yeah. There is no need to explain those. Now, if we look into the Tangut character, so the first obvious idea would be to treat the Tangut characters just in the same way as the Tangut, as the Chinese one are explained in Shuwenjianzi. This is again not totally impossible, but only valid for several types of the Tangut characters, so to speak. Now, if we proceed a little bit further, then we'll find out that Tangut people themselves, yeah, they didn't look at their characters from graphic perspective. This is the only example of a Tangut character dictionary, which was discovered quite recently. It was sold not on eBay, but on one of those auctions in Beijing. If I'm not mistaken, the price for this one, it's altogether 36 pages, was sold for, I think, 1,400,000 yuan. So there is somebody who is really into Tangut. If I'm not mistaken, because it was actually goes to and fro, because when it was discovered, it was sold for, I think, 400,000 by some dude. That dude put it at home and didn't really like it after a while and sent it over again. Now it's 140. So it's 1,400,000. I'm not sure if it was ever sold. Now this guy has Andrew West in England published an introductory paper on that, but the research on that still continues. Yeah, the dictionary here, that's the only one which I know, which tries to deal with the characters from the graphic perspective, from the actual number of strokes and whatnot. So there is a preface. The preface is quite long, and basically is saying that I mentioned this yesterday. Yeah, so that the Tangut language is very complicated, and so very many characters, very many strokes and characters. Therefore, there are very few of those who can really master that. Yeah. Therefore, in order to remedy that, yeah, they have decided to put together this one. We have this one is very problematic, I must say, because when it says that this is the 30 zimu, the 30 letters for the rhyme ta. This character on top reads ta. We will, okay, it doesn't matter. Now the problem is that although this entry itself reads without a problem, the problem is that there is no rhyme letter ta in the Tangut. Yeah, so what this means still remains obscure. So some of now this one over here it means zito, the head, the upper part of the character, and here it goes. Now this particular one, for example, introduces this element. Yeah, and the one below here is how this character is written in the Cao in the abridged form. Yeah, this particular element reads like writes like this. So, but no meanings are provided. It's just characters. Yeah. Now there is another element, and it goes on and on and on. Sorry. So far, we were not able to make sense out of that. Yeah, I mean, Shinzikwo says he's researching that, but I'm not quite sure what's going to come out of that. But nonetheless, at least we can have an idea of how the Caoshu or Xinsu, the cursive characters, how they emerged. Yeah? This is one thing. That's a relatively new discovery. Other Tangut lexicographical materials, they were known from the start. Now, this one over here is a very interesting one, which is called Itong. Which, of course, we translate as synonyms. This text was also, this is a particularly interesting one. It is basically a Tangut version of Arya. So Arya is normally a word list, yeah, where the words are arranged according to categories. Now we, from the history of the Sung dynasty, the Xiaguzuan, the chapter on Tanguts, we have an indication that during the Sung there was a Chinese book, which was called Qian'erya. Now this Qian, yeah, basically means Tangut, yeah. So that's Tangut Arya, from which many knowledge on Tanguts for the Chinese was derived, yeah. So my suspicion is that this particular one, yeah, is the Tangut copy or a Tangut version of the Qian'erya, which is no longer extant, but hopefully the Tangut versions, but luckily the Tangut version survives. Now this one here, if I just take a couple of moments, those are all characters connected with Buddhism. This is Buddha, Stotra, Sutra, Yana, platform, and prophecy, for example. If we go to this line, these are the transcription signs for the Dharani. So Om, Ahum, and so on, yeah? A very detailed and specific exposition. So those are Buddhist characters. Now the Arya, or this Itong, these synonyms, was divided into two sections. I mean, it still is divided. The sections on Qin, yeah, Qin, and Zhuo, pure and muddy. Now this pure and muddy, they all emerge in the Tangut accounts of the Tangut literature, yeah, because there is a specific genre called Qinzhou, pure and muddy. What does this mean exactly? Oh, sorry, that's here this means to activate. What does this pure and muddy exactly mean? Yeah, is another question, because as all of you know, pure and muddy, they stand for voiced and unvoiced consonants. Yeah, T and Ro. Here, supposedly, it's not truly so. Yeah, and that has probably some cultural or I would say religious implication, but we just don't know so far. This is of little use linguistically, but it kind of explains to us how Tangut words were formed. And of course, something which we have discussed yesterday, I've mentioned, to the right here is the famous Van Hai and its precious rhymes, Van Hai Bao Yu. Yeah? That's the rhyme dictionary, which is arranged exactly in the manner of Guan Yu, of the Song Dynasty. And the homophones, the Intong dictionary, which we also mentioned yesterday, it's, I think, really, we will not be talking about this anymore. Now, how, excuse me. Now, Van Hai contains some hints about how the Tangut characters were formed. Now, here I have a few examples which we can actually see. Altogether, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 elements. The first one is Hu, Tao, which means the upper part of the character. The so-called Qi is Xia, that means the lower part. Pa, which normally translates as Bian, means the left part. And the Bi, which means to help, translates the Chinese Zu, yeah, is the Yo, is the right. Now, Ni, that's actually cognate with Tibetan Ningbo, yeah? Heart, center. Yo is surrounding. Ngo, complete, character completely incorporated in another one. And the final one, Ti, means Dianshao, something which is cut. Now here I have several examples which we can see. So this particular dude here, this character, He, yeah, it means true. Zhen in Chinese. How did Tanguts analyze it? Now we can see that on top of this character, there is this element. Now this element, yeah, according to this element, according to the authors of Wan Hai, to the compilers of Wan Hai, this top, Jen is derived from the character Se, which means pure. Whereas the lower part is derived from character Ke, which again is a Chinese loan word meaning Ji. So it's Qin, Jin. So pure gold means true. Pure gold means true. Now another one, if we're below. The character Ca, Cha. Again, the upper element on top derives from Re, yeah? This Re means market or marketplace or something. And whereas the lower part here derives from He, which is included completely. Therefore, the Tangus put it in Go here. So top of Re and bottom and complete Ke, yeah, which means to pass through. So those characters, they are completely taken, as we can see, either in this case and in this case. The phonetic value of the final character of this one, yeah, is not related to its constituents. It's clear. This guy reads He, its constituents, one reads Se, another reads Ke, yeah? Here it's a, it's re and ke. Now here, this one is a different story. Can you see that? This is a modal verb. Wa means like, well, modal verb. Must, should, whatever. Its part, the left part, is derived from this li, and the right part is derived from character wa. And this character wa is also very popular, very widely attested, yeah? It basically reads as yi. Wa li. Yeah? So something like following the truth. Now, as we can see, it not only that the graphic part here was introduced, was adapted here, but also the phonetic value is also reproduced here in this one. You see that? No. Yeah. So if we look further, for example, this ke, which means a younger girl, yeah? I guess you have probably encountered this character used in the what it is, household registers. It is also little woman. Again, it's ke, it's ze and ni. There is also no relationship here. She and zo, which means to change, those are not clearly like this. But nonetheless, still we can see, in some cases, those are just, really random, yeah? But we can see that in certain cases, the elements were put together without reference to their phonetic values. But sometimes they were. Gun Huan-san has prepared a very long and detailed set of articles explaining his views on the nature of the Tangut characters, yeah? And his basic conclusion, in fact, was that we can't really apply the 6 categories of the Tangut character, of the Chinese characters to the Tangut ones. However, we can see that Xinsan and Huyi, yeah, as we can see, yeah, they are actually widely found in Xixia. What concerning the Xiangxing, there are also a few examples, but those are really, I would say, not very illustrative. For example, let me see, like this guy. Please. Who can guess what this character means?
Yeah, it's gate.
Yeah, it's gate, exactly. It's gate and it reads man with a nasalized vowel. Yeah, so it's borrowing from the Chinese and it obviously reproduces, or it's based on the same principle as the Chinese man. Yeah. There are things. The formation of the Tangut characters itself, yeah, was actually a very complicated process. Yeah, and in many cases we are really not able to uncover how those were created. But in some cases we actually can. In some cases we actually can. And that reveals a great deal about the Tangut culture and about the world view which the Tanguts had. Now let's have some examples here. This one, we had this before, yesterday. And this one. Now please, what do you think is, one reads man and means tie. This one reads something like tie, nasalized, yeah, and means die. The lightning, yeah, thunderbolt, lightning. So, who can guess what is the relationship between the two?
Oh, the end is the same.
Yes, exactly. This part is the same, yeah. But how did it emerge?
Would that be like the bush or?
It's more complicated, in fact. I guess this is one of those achievements of Dr. Gun Huangshan, who was able to establish this connection. Now you see, the problem is that this is an actual Tangut character, yeah? This is from the basic vocabulary, it's man, that's cognate with Tibetan. Yeah? So how does it emerge, yeah? And it reads, when it is juxtaposed with Chinese, it's Kye. This one is Chinese loanword for de, which in the Northwestern dialect at that moment, yeah, there probably were no voiced consonant, therefore it probably also read Kye, yeah? So this element went here, to demonstrate, yeah, that that this character should read Kye, whereas its source character reads me. It's just like I said, it's quite complicated. So there is this double connection here. Another example here would be, of course, this one, very famous. Also in simplified matter, yeah? This reads li, lhi, in fact. Also it's homophone with the lhi people. But if one deals with homophony, he will never be able to get out of that. Now, the problem is that this character reads or translates Chinese guo. Okay, there is another character which also reads li. And also translates Chinese, translates guo. What is the relationship between the two? As we can see, this part, although there is this stroke here, these are also more or less similar. Now, if we look into the Tangut dictionaries, then we will see that this element, this one, occurs independently. And it reads also as something like guo. Okay? So the way we look at that is in fact that this character, although it reads li, yeah, from its meaning we can tell that it was specifically designed, because this one is probably Tangut native vocabulary. Whereas this li, which means Chinese guo, was specifically designed to render the concept of guo, whereas this one is probably yu or whatever, yeah? And this eventually became more popular than this one, yeah?
Did you say you?
Yu, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This one probably
Nobody knows what Yule is.
Yu, yeah, the land.
Yeah. Like me, Yule.
Yeah, yeah. But also there is also another word, Tangut word, which can equally translate as you, but just we'll skip it for the moment. This is how it is. Yeah, so it's really a little bit complicated and really takes some time to figure out how those characters emerge. I personally find trouble assigning that. If it is a huizi or if it is whatever, that's probably Zhuanzhu. Probably Zhuanzhu, yeah, but then again, or maybe Jiajie, but I'd rather we not be more specific on this one. But nonetheless, yeah, although we have those complicated principles for the Tangut script studied in very extensive detail by Gong Huangshan and others, the basic principle of arranging characters, of analyzing those, was of course phonetic. The Tanguts learned their phonetics or their phonology, of course, from the Song Dynasty, from the Chinese. So the basic device for analyzing was, of course, Fanjie. Was, of course, Fanjie. So I guess everybody here knows what is Fantier. What's Fantier? Well, Fantier is
Countertomy,
yeah,
I don't know.
cutting and yeah,
cutting and splicing.
and splicing. Yeah, cutting and slicing.
Well, taking
Yeah.
the opening sound of one word
Yeah.
and splicing it onto the end sound of
That's
the
right.
next.
Yeah. So it's so there is shang and xia. Yeah. It's all very easy. So that's what the Tangut did. Yeah. It's again the same way. So here, for this reason, I have presented that's Jie Yun Xu, the translation of the that's the Chinese, yeah, from the Jie Yun, where it explains the principles of Jie Yun and why they were decided to actually write the Jie Yun. Unfortunately, we do not have the preface for the Tangut Wanhai, which normally is identified as the Tangut version of Jie Yun. Yeah. We only have prefaces for homonyms for the Tongyin and for the 5 sounds, and this we have discussed already. But the general principle which is employed in the Tangut dictionaries, in the Tangut Ram dictionaries, is basically the same as in Chinese ones. Now here we have, this is Guanyin, and this is Wanhai. As we can see, even from the looks of those, they look all the same. Excuse me. Arrangement of columns is similar. Also, the fan qie, yeah, the shanzi and xiazi, the upper character and the lower character, they are all put together. The number of the characters with each shan, the number of the characters with each rhyme, they are all provided. So that's basically the fundamental source for studying the Tangut phonology. Another thing is, of course, Jie Yun Zizang Tu, Jie Yun Zizang Tu, the, how do you say that? You know, it's zhizhang, yeah, pointing the head. You know why is that, right? Because all the categories are placed on fingers.
I
Yeah?
think you could call it mnemonic.
Mnemonic.
Mnemonic chart.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
but it has hand because it's all here, yeah?
Yeah.
So one, by looking at his palm, one can figure out how to do that. I tried myself to memorize it that way, but I failed. The only way out is probably to write those on your hand, and then, or maybe to 2. Because if you write it, it eventually washes down. But never mind. So that is, supposedly this Zhizhantu was by Sima Guang, of course, as everyone here knows. And there is no need to explain the structure, right? So it's clear. You know what it is, yeah? So the Shanmu and the Yun, yeah, so there are characters, no characters.
I'm sorry, if I really need to know what you were just showing us, I don't understand it. If I can skip it, that's fine,
Yeah.
but I don't
I
understand
think
the principle.
I will explain it later when we get to, yeah. So, yeah, that is, okay. All right. So this is what we come back, this is what we return to in the end. Using all those materials which we just mentioned, we come to the reconstruction of the Tangut phonological system. This is by no means final, and what I only tried to do here is to basically demonstrate that the consonant system of the Tangut language was more or less modeled after the Chinese dictionaries. What I'm trying to say here is that we cannot be sure if all these sounds, well, really existed, but at least Tanguts found necessary to reproduce that. So if we look at this, these are the essential the 36 letters, yeah, initial consonants from the Chinese rhyme dictionaries. Now here in the red line are the Tangut equivalents of those letters Here I have provided the Kalgren's reconstruction, and here it is reconstruction by Nishida Tatsuo. Yeah. As we can see, those are fairly similar, and generally speaking, yeah, Tangut is just this way, at least the consonant system. The numbers here, they demonstrate, according to the Tunyin dictionary, to the homophones, the number of big characters and number of explanatory smaller characters, as we have seen already. This total totals up to 6,700 something, which is more or less the total number of the Tangut characters which are known to us now. Yeah. Sometime if we calculate all together with the, all those spurious characters or characters which occur only once, are not in the dictionaries, I mean, sometimes this happens. Then we can probably estimate roughly about 7,000 Tangut characters altogether. Further on, the Tanguts did what? They have tried to, the scholars tried to reconstruct Tangut phonology in a more or less appropriate manner. Now, according to Wanhai, according to the Dictionary of the Five Sounds, there is 130 rhymes, yud rhymes, in the Tangut language. Some of them combine with all initial consonants, some not. Yeah. Further than that, further on, the scholars suggested that there probably should be more specific, more fundamental divisions within the Tangut phonology, and that would involve the traditional Chinese categories of Kaiko and Heko. And also the so-called Damhu. This basically, Kaiko and Heko, as of course everybody knows, means specific way of pronouncing the relationship between I and O sounds, yeah, and the presence or absence of the medial U. In traditional Chinese phonology, as far as we know, yeah, there are 4 Dan, yeah, and there are Kaiko, open mouth, and Heko, closed mouth characters. The problem here is that this Chinese system does not completely stand against the Tangut materials. Another thing is that although the Tanguts were very careful in reproducing the Chinese system of the 36 initial consonants, they were not able to fully comply with that, just because the Tangut language materials are against that. Now here we can see there is just one little thing, yeah, that is the velar initials, which is Jian, Xi, Qun, and Yi, yeah, from the in Kalgren's reconstructions, that would be K, H, G, Ng, yeah, very similar to Tibetan actually. Akagaganga, yeah, that's basically come from the same source, and some people would argue that the Japanese system is actually the same, yeah. But that I would know. So that we can see, and here are the rhymes here. That is the first one, Dong, Zong, Z, Z, and A, yeah? So let us see how this works. This is totally based on Gong Hansen's materials. With the initial consonant, we really have no problem here, because if we look at this, at the Jian letter, yeah, which is K, yeah, we have this character, K, 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 initials are okay, yeah? Now, if we look further onto the rhyme letters here, yeah, U, Yo, Ye, I, A, yeah, then it's, according to Shitian Longxiong, to Nishida, it's Ko, Kyo, Kia, Kui, Ka, Gunhuan-san reconstruct those as ku, kyo, kia, kui, kia, yeah? The real difference here is this U, yeah? Which, in my understanding, is representative actually of the Danhu. Now, another problem here is that if we examine the Tangut dictionaries, then we will see an interesting thing, yeah? Because we have Xi and Chun, yeah? Which basically Haga, yeah? Now, the problem is that sometimes in the column for Kha, we have characters, but in the column for Chun, we don't have those. Sometimes it's the other way around. Kha is empty, so Xi is empty, Chun has things, yeah? This basically indicates that there was no difference between the two in the Tangut language. So they are all reconstructed similarly. So this kind of indicates or demonstrates to us that the Tangut phonology cannot be completely dealt with on the basis of Chinese and requires actually a great deal of other efforts and of other studies. The rhyme letters, yeah, the Yunmu, they are also not exact equivalents of the Chinese, yeah? Although, of course, one cannot deny that this was all based on the Chinese patterns. But regardless of those minor things, I mean, they're really minor, yeah? Tangut phonology is kind of straightforward, yeah? There is not much, I mean, there are some complications, but those are not all that dramatic. So there is another problem here, yeah? Which I would like to draw everyone's attention to. And something which really baffled the scholars and still continues to baffle them even now. The relation between Tangut sound, I mean the phonetic value of characters, and their orthography. Why is this important? It is important because unlike, let's say, Chinese, yeah, for the Tangut language, sound change or sound alternation is very important. That is to say, change of initial consonant, let's say from